Welcome to the NCDWI Guide podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI guy, Jake Sinek.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to episode 223 of the NCDWI Guy podcast. On today's episode, we are talking about a worthy rival. A worthy rival. This is a concept that recently came up from reading The Infinite Game. This was our book of the month for the Freedom Fighters book club. We're now 5 books deep in the book club and have had a lot of great takeaways. We've gone through Profit First, the E-Myth, Never Split the Difference. So we've had like some great discussions around these books, but I would say of the books that we have discussed, the one that had the biggest impact on me in my professional life was the E-Myth. But The Infinite Game, in terms of mindset, is like the most helpful mindset book when it comes to the practice of law, and just an absolute blast of a discussion a couple weeks back at the book club regarding The Infinite Game. But Simon Sinek talks about this concept of having a worthy rival. And in order to be a better player in the game, it's necessary to have a worthy rival. And I think, my understanding of this has been in the background without having kind of like put a lot of thought into the concept since going into practice. You have worthy courtroom rivals, both from the criminal defense attorney perspective and from the prosecution side of things. In the business world, same thing. There has been people that have been both inside and outside of the law, inside of criminal defense, and then other practice areas within the law itself that can kind of be a model for a worthy rival. But this is something that I think is really important to focus on. And so there's just from kind of like past life experience, I've heard this concept expressed in other ways. So I don't know who the author of this quote. I tried to look at it online, and it looks like it's attributed to multiple people. But when I was in high school, I was homeschooled. Last year of high school, we had to watch this incredibly boring video on what was titled "How to Become a Superstar Student." And basically it was like 12 hours worth of old VHS video, professor in her classroom, literally talking about like how to prepare for college, how to take good notes in college. And so, yeah, just like, want to beat your head against the wall kind of video. There's some helpful, takeaways like there is in anything, but definitely not the entertainment value that might be helpful to keep people engaged in learning how to be a great student, especially in the college setting. But in the first video, and this is something that has stuck with me ever since, the professor that was giving this lecture basically said this quote. He was like, "This used to be on the door of the football locker when I was playing high school football. We would walk through the door, and this was above the door, and you'd see this every single time you went in or out of the locker." And it was this quote: "Somewhere, someone is training while I am not. And when we meet, he will win." Somewhere, someone is training while I am not. And when we meet, he will win. In the athletic arena, that is such a great conceptualization of the worthy rival concept. So helpful, because it's impossible to deny that logic. If you are getting outworked by another athlete, the likelihood of victory when you meet on the mat, when you meet on the field, when you meet in the gym, the likelihood that you win is pretty rough. Kobe Bryant, in my humble opinion, was the best basketball player of his generation because he just simply outworked everybody else. And he got, you know, maniacal, if that's maybe the right word. He got just crazed about putting in the effort on the court to make sure that he was fine tuning everything that could be fine tuned. And over time, as he's putting in an extra 3 hours a day at the gym than everybody else, that effect compounds and you become just a little bit better, just a little bit better. But over the course of years, where every week you're putting in an additional 10 or 15 hours at the gym than even other superstar athletes, over the course of a decade, you have put in thousands of more hours than the other players that you are competing against. And that's how you become the master, the man, the GOAT, is by putting in that work. So that quote always stuck with me in terms of the athletic space. Somebody out there is going to outwork me. And when we meet, that person's going to win. If they've put in the practice, if they put in the reps, if they put in the training, they're going to beat me. Jocko Willink, who huge fan of, the discipline equals freedom sign is behind me. His chief operating officer, Jamie Cochran, is going to crush it at the Freedom Fighter Summit in September. So excited to see her speak. But he has his own version of a worthy rival. And what he talks about in the military context is the man in the cave. Jocko says that what used to motivate him to get up early, to train, to put in exercise, to check his gear, to plan, to learn, to grow in his kind of strategic and tactical understanding of complex military operations, was the man in the cave. Now, who is the man in the cave? It wasn't a real person. Just like with the athletic example that I just gave, somewhere someone is going to outwork me. They're training right now, and when we meet, he's going to win. That's not a real person. We don't have like a picture that we can put up on the mirror and tear it down as we're going into a fight. It's just this understanding that there's always somebody out there that is trying to work harder than me, that can then beat me when we meet in the arena. And so the man in the cave for Jocko was that same thing on the military battlefield. Somewhere there is this man in the cave that is getting up early, that is practicing, that is, taking the amount of reps when it comes to utilizing their weapon, putting in the exercise, the training, the tactical understanding of the battlefield, that is studying the streets where warfare is likely going to occur on. This man in the cave is putting himself in the best possible position to be a dominant warrior, so that when he comes onto the battlefield with the enemy, with the U.S. military, with somebody like Jocko, he can take that person out. And so Jocko said, I imagine this man in the cave that was there outworking me. And he was my motivation for getting up early, for putting in the training reps, for, again, educating himself about all types of military tactics and checking the best practices for standard operating procedures, improving how missions were carried out. The man in the cave was the person that Jocko didn't want to be defeated by. Because unlike in the arena, in the sports version, in the military, it's your life at stake. And so Jocko has used this example to say, like, this is absolutely the most important thing that I could be motivated by, was making sure that when I met the enemy on the battlefield, when I met the human being on the battlefield that was trying to take me out, that I was as prepared as possibly I could be to destroy the warrior fighting against me, to destroy the enemy, to destroy the person that had been putting in the reps to become a killing machine. So in the military and in sports, we had those examples, but Simon Sinek in The Infinite Game puts this kind of same worthy rival language in the business world. And if you have not read The Infinite Game, you got to go out and read The Infinite Game. But this is from page 161 of the hardcover copy of the Infinite Game, in the chapter titled Worthy Rival. Quote, a worthy rival is another player in the game worthy of comparison. Worthy rivals may be players in our industry or outside our industry. They may be our sworn enemies, are sometimes collaborators or colleagues. It doesn't even matter whether they are playing with a finite or an infinite mindset, so long as we are playing with an infinite mindset. Regardless of who they are or where we find them, the main point is that they do something or many things as well or better than us. I'm going to repeat that line. Regardless of who they are or where we find them, the main point is that they do something or many things as well or better than us. They make a superior product, command greater loyalty, are better leaders, or act with a clearer sense of purpose than we do. We don't need to admire everything about them, agree with them, or even like them. We simply acknowledge that they have strengths and abilities from which we could learn a thing or two. End quote. The value of a worthy rival is that a worthy rival is somebody that we can emulate, somebody that we can learn from, somebody that allows us to grow, not really allows us to grow, pushes us to grow. I can remember the summer. I don't know what year this was, but I was in middle school and high school, huge into baseball. Loved watching baseball on TV. I loved trading baseball cards. I had thousands of baseball cards. Still have a pretty good like collection of the best cards that I had from my like middle school and early high school days. Late in high school, not so much in the baseball kind of following scene, but when I was collecting baseball cards, I was deep into it. And the summer that Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were competing for the home run record was just simply unbelievable. It would have been unbelievable enough for either of them to break the record and really have nobody in a close second place. But I think there was something magical about that competition, about the worthy rival mentality that each brought the other during that summer, that Sammy, I think, had like 20 home runs in the month of June and like, basically was neck and neck with Mark McGwire, who had gotten off to this like crazy hot start. And ultimately they both passed the record set by Roger Maris because of this worthy rival competition going on between the two of them. It was just one of the most exciting things that I can remember in sports in my lifetime, was that battle for the home run record. Like, probably the most meaningful record that exists in baseball. I'm sure there's baseball enthusiasts that will totally disagree about that. But to me, like that's like the gold standard of of professional baseball record setting is the home run record. And the fact that they both broke it in the same year by a number of home runs is pretty unbelievable. And I think that there was something going on that both of them knew, hey, I want to be the one to smash this decades old record. This other guy is really getting after it, changing the way that you think about your next at bat in terms of, like we're literally neck and neck, potentially could take a walk here, but I want to give it a swing. In other seasons, maybe, hey, I'll just try to kind of get on base and help my team in that regard. But there was something about this. They knew there was something special happening, and both just putting it all out there to capture this important, unbelievable record in all of sports. So there's somebody else out there that's pushing us to grow. And in the case of the athletic example that I gave earlier in the podcast with Jocko Willink, it could be an imaginary person or it can be a real person. And in the courtroom setting for us criminal defense lawyers, we have multiple worthy rivals in the courtroom. There's district attorneys that are just so good at what they do. And I have learned so much in terms of trying a DWI case by going up against some of the best prosecutors in the state. And I think that it always means a little bit more when you win a case. I mean, it always feels good to get a case DWI dismissed, to get a not guilty, but it means a little bit more when there is a worthy rival on the other side. A lot of DAs that are newbies in the office, a month in, sometimes even several weeks in, they're getting thrown in the courtroom, and it's like, they go give it your best shot. And you can definitely catch them off guard. Sometimes the newbies off guard in terms of, all of the experience and kind of trial warfare that you have learned over the years when there is a new lawyer on the other side. So it always means a lot when you get a dismissal or not guilty, and there's a worthy rival sitting at the other table. It also doesn't feel as bad when you lose if you have a worthy rival sitting at the other table and you think, man, they just tried the hell out of that case. And, kudos to them for basically, tying up this DWI package in a nice bow and presenting everything, kind of neat, I's dotted, T's crossed to the judge. The judge didn't have any real decision-making power in this particular case. We also have worthy rivals on with our fellow criminal defense brothers and sisters, people that we are inspired by, people that we kind of want to emulate more. Again, maybe you think about it in terms of people that you are competing against, but I would say more people that are calling you to elevate your game. When you see people that are doing it at a high level, you recognize your own faults and failings in a way that you can't if you don't have that kind of discrepancy between the way you're doing things and the way the best are doing things. So starting out for me here in Buncombe County, Al Messer and Andy Banzoff were and still are like the gold standard for DWI trials. People that I looked up to and said, "Gosh, if I could try a case like they're trying a case, that would be something special." And hey, look, they're doing this. They're asking these particular questions. They're filing this particular motion on this type of case. And there was a number of other stellar lawyers, and still is a number of other stellar lawyers in the Buncombe County Bar that I have learned and taken away so many things from over my career as a criminal defense attorney. But in particular, Al and Andy were like the people that were setting the standard. Similarly, on like the business side of things, Bill Powers was like this, marketing guru that I looked up to kind of determine, how should we adjust our marketing strategy? What's Bill doing on this? What does his website look like? What kind of content is he putting out? And how is he presenting things? What is the kind of design of things that he's posting on in this space or that space, videos that he's creating, that type of thing. And so, generally speaking, when I was looking to kind of make a change on the marketing side of things, Bill was definitely like one of the first reference points of like, how is Bill doing this? And Bill is an amazing trial lawyer. So this is not in any way to take away from the courtroom side of things, but I didn't have the firsthand ability to see him in the courtroom. We just practice in different places. So he was that kind of like, he was that worthy rival to me when I was not a worthy rival at all to him. Same thing with Andy and Al. I was not a worthy rival in terms of how to try a case in the courtroom. So when you are looking for a worthy rival, I think what you want to do is look for somebody that is causing you some discomfort about how you are doing things. Is there places that I could improve in the courtroom? What could I be trying differently? What cases is this lawyer citing? How do they present themselves to the court? How do they speak with clients in the courtroom? How are they interacting with clients? What is the client experience that they're bringing? Is there something that makes me uncomfortable about the way that that lawyer talks to their clients, both in the courtroom and outside, that makes me feel like, man, I really could step up my game with the client experience side of things? For criminal defense law firm owners, what are the ways that I could improve my business? What is this attorney doing to build brand in the area? How is this attorney seem to be utilizing his or her team to grow in this legal marketplace? What does the culture appear to be between this lawyer and his staff? How does he talk about or she talk about her staff in the attorney lounge? How are they referring to the people working on the team? Are they constantly saying, man, these people are killing it for me? Or grumbling about the team that they have hired to help them? What is the mentality? How can I improve my culture? The way that I do business, the way that I deliver my services, what things could I do to improve? And so finding a worthy rival is one of the most powerful and important things that we can do for business growth purposes. And that has been, like, to me, one of the main value points, maybe the biggest value point of last year's Freedom Fighter Summit, was building, kind of laying the groundwork, laying the foundation for a community of lawyers that is oriented towards how can we improve the business of criminal defense? How can we improve our systems so that we're putting more time into our pocket? I think, so many of us think, I've got calls, too many calls coming into the office. I've got too many things going on. And so, how can we share information and use systems, especially now in this age of AI? How can we use systems to basically drastically scale the amount of cases that we can handle versus the time that we put in without any drop off in actual service? In fact, a lot of times uptick in level of client experience that we are delivering. How can I hire the right people? How can I train people better? How can I create the culture at my office that I want to create? How can I make a difference in the community in which I live? Having a place where we can bounce these type of ideas off of one another with other worthy rivals is unbelievably valuable. To me, it's one of the, again, biggest wins from last year's summit is creating a space, creating a place for worthy rivals to communicate with one another. So go find your worthy rival, emulate them, study them, befriend them if that's the right type of worthy rival. Find people that are doing things better than you are doing them and learn from them. Look forward to speaking with you next time.